Hello everybody, welcome to Bad Big Games, where we talk about all things game news and reviews. I'm your host Joseph, and speaking of reviews, today we're going to be talking about Darksiders Genesis and if it's worth your $40. So with all that said, with all that out of the way, Future Joe, start the show. Now, before we begin and we get into this awesome review, just want to lay down some ground rules. First, THQ provided me the code for this game. Thank you very much, THQ. Secondly, there are no spoilers whatsoever. All the gameplay you see is early on into the game, and the story is straight out of the advertisements, so there's nothing spoiler related. If you want to go in with a clean slate, here it is. So with all that said, this is my thoughts walking in, my thoughts walking out of Darksiders Genesis. So walking into Darksiders Genesis, what am I expecting and why am I starting out with Darksiders Genesis? Well, it's because Genesis is the game that starts off the whole entire franchise. This is the prequel that begins into Darksiders 1, and so I wanted to see how it would get a feel for this franchise with Genesis, and what I'm expecting out of this game is a different take on Diablo. So let's start first and foremost with the story. And this comes straight from the website, so I'm not spoiling a dang thing.
Lucifer, the enigmatic and deceptive Demon King, has been plotting to upset the balance by granting power to master demons throughout hell. War and strife must hunt down these masters, gather information, and ultimately fight their way through a tangled demonic conspiracy that threatens to forever upset the balance and unravel all of creation.
And so it's pretty simple, right? Bad people are doing bad things. There's a mystery. It's something that's not what it's gonna seem. Basic story stuff. And this story, at the end of the day, is something that we've heard before, we've seen before, but with a Darksiders lens to it. And if you're a newcomer like me, that's all you need. And if you are a fan of the series, as I've been told, it does a great job introducing new and old characters to you. Now, speaking of characters both old and new, let's talk about the playable protagonists in this game, starting with War, the Horseman of War himself from the original Darksiders game. He is just a mixture of Illidan Stormrage and Dennis from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I've contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves! Begone, vile man! Begone from me!
For the balance! You are ending!
He's taking his job way too seriously, and Strife is kind of just like Cade 6 from Destiny. He's charismatic, he's funny, he's witty, he questions authority, and you're kind of having this buddy cop between the two, where War is a day away from retirement and Strife's the new guy who's just carefree. And seeing how both of them can relate to each other but at the same time clash with each other is a really awesome thing to see. And how the story is laid out in front of you isn't by these huge cutscenes, because remember, this is a $40 game. It's told through these beautiful comic strips and pop-up dialogue between Strife and War. And so you're seeing this like Todd McFarlane meets Blizzard comic strips being given to you piece by piece, and they just look and sound beautiful. All the voice actors and actresses in this game sell their roles 110%. So the story, whether you're new and you're walking in for the first time, I got my enjoyment out of it, and whether you are a veteran to the series, you're going to get something out of here as well for you. Now, story's fine, but Joe, cut to the chase. What does this game play like? Is this just another Diablo clone, but with a Darksiders skin over this? Is this Diablo Immortal?
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Or is there something different here? So first and foremost, I played this in solo, split screen, and online co-op, and I ran everything completely fine. No frame rate dips, no lag. I ran it on PlayStation and Xbox. I can't speak for the Switch. But when we talk about gameplay, let's talk about first the first horseman, Strife. Now, both characters, Strife and War, play like a hack and slash game would play like. And that's the really interesting thing here, is that Strife, though he does have some Diablo-esque elements, like he feels like a wizard and he feels like a demon hunter in Diablo had a baby, and that's what Strife is. He's a master of dodging, daggers, and guns, and that's what he's all about. He's about laying traps for enemies, letting them fall for it, creating shadow figures of himself that deal extra DPS. He does a ton of awesome, cool combos that you normally don't see in an isometric game like this. And the other spin on Strife is that he also has a Mega Man component. That's right, his guns fire different types of ammo. He can fire laser beams, he can fire flame chain guns, he can fire giant cannons out of his 2 pistols that make it for a fun experience no matter what type of engagement you go into. Strife is always packing the necessary materials needed to come out ahead. So if you like that quick and nimble type of gameplay where you're kiting the enemies around the map, Strife is that character for you. So then let's talk about War, the other playable protagonist that plays exactly how you think an old school hack and slash should. Like, you're dropping old school Kratos onto the field and letting havoc reign. This character does such a great job at being a hack and slash in an isometric game so freaking well. It's all about chaining up combos. It's all about dealing heavy AoE damage and getting that one move that you've been waiting for right on target. And it feels so rewarding when you nail that combo, when you do that devastating AoE attack. It feels so freaking great. And the awesome thing about this as well is that it kind of feels like Doom 2016, where in order to get more health, sure, you have potions that you can use, but to order to gain more energy so you can make your devastating attacks more devastating, you're actually going up to weak opponents and having awesome assassination moves. Whether they're a little old peon or whether they're this huge awesome boss, you could chain up assassinations in order to save up for more devastating attacks, so that you're constantly moving, you're constantly doing something different and not just mushing the same button over and over again. The combat feels fantastic. The only thing that I don't really like is, rather than farming enemies for cooler armor or sicker weapons like you would in a Diablo-esque game, you're actually farming different demons to buff your power tree. That's kind of described in a somewhat heavy-handed way, and it isn't explained particularly well, but that's really the only gripe I have. Now let's talk about the map design, the level design in this game, because it's kind of a mixed bag. There are elements that I feel are totally fantastic. I think each level does a great job of bringing its own personality. The music that accompanies it is fantastic, but to me, one of the coolest things that Darksiders Genesis does is break up the monotony between going from point A to point B. It's not feeling so linear. You get to explore and you get to platform and you get to have these little cool puzzles that, whether you're in co-op or you're playing solo, are going to give you a different experience. It's those things that kind of break up the monotony for it being just another isometric game. It's trying to do things differently. But unfortunately, when it comes to the platforming elements, it's kind of frustrating. I feel like the camera doesn't give me enough depth perception or enough control to see exactly where I'm platforming onto, and I kind of feel like I'm fuddling with the camera, or I'm fighting with the camera, rather than trying to focus on where I'm supposed to jump next to. And when it comes to the polish, that's where this kind of falls through, where I've experienced on almost every single map some type of glitch where I'm able to jump out of the level, where I get stuck, or even on chapter 6, if you play as War and you enter the elevator, and you'll know, the game will actually just toss you through the graphics. And it sucks because this game has been out for months on Stadia and they still haven't fixed this for everyone else. It's just a kind of like a head scratcher to me. I don't know why this game is so unpolished the way it is. And because this is a game in 2020, let's talk about the end game. Yeah, even Darksiders Genesis has an end game to it. You can replay any chapter on any type of difficulty you want, just like any other game nowadays, but it also gives you an arena mode where you get to fight hordes of enemies. So if you want to skip the bullshit and get straight to the fighting, it gives you that tenfold, which I gotta be honest, with the short time that I got to play the end game, I was really enjoying myself. So what are my thoughts on Darksiders Genesis? Having all that said and all that out of the way, my thoughts are this. As a newcomer to the Darksiders series, it provides me an isometric game that I can play and enjoy and understand and have a ton of fun with. I've never played a game that feels like Diablo. It feels like God of War. It feels like so many games that we love and just play so well. I enjoyed all my time with Darksiders Genesis. And yes, sure, there's some glitches and some bugs, but you can see the love, the passion, and knowledge that Airship Syndicate has for the Darksiders IP, and it shows in this game. So I highly recommend you all go out there, buy Darksiders Genesis. Of course, I played it on the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. So I don't know what I can think of the Switch version, but every time I'm playing it, I'm just like, I'll take some low resolution for some awesome gameplay on the go. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Go buy it, full price. I don't care. It's $40. It's something that is going to be a ton of fun. And again, it's gotten me into the Darksiders franchise. I want to know more. I want to play more. I want to know these characters. So with all that said, with all that out of the way, those are my thoughts on this game. If you want to see more stuff that I do, game news and reviews, please hit like, share, subscribe. It helps me out, grows this big beautiful family that I call home, because here at Bad Bait Games, that's what it's all about, the conversation. So if you have any questions for me, please leave them down below. I'll answer them. Or you want to just bond about how awesome this game is, I could do that too. So with all that said and with all that out of the way, everybody, keep your wits about you. Have a nice one.